All right, we are back with another guide. This time we're going to be reviewing Blackguard. So really, just to set expectations, this is an AOE farming mage that doesn't require any distance. So the mages that you've seen, like Etup and other streamers using, require that you cold blast, you step away, and then you meteor and use other combustion and other AOE skills. My objective in building this was to build a mage that could just face tank large groups of mobs, survive long enough to bring them down, and then go on to the next pack. So every build that I've been trying so far has really been kind of a kite build. That's like what most of the relevant builds are today. This one is really meant just to fucking put its nose in front of a whole bunch of mobs, kill them. So you can see Blackguard is protection, wizardry, spiritual. I am a little behind in protection because I just kind of worked this out and have been fine tuning it over the last day or two, where I'm happy with it. And so I'll just kind of walk through the skill choices that I've made first. I'll talk to you a little bit about the cards that I've chosen, and then I'll show you the build killing some mobs. So protection, obviously you take bash. We don't use it at all. Smiting Smash is part of the rotation. It's one of the openers after you provoke. You can see my skills are kind of in order here. I work the bottom line, and then I work the top line. By the time I get to R, they're almost always all dead, and sometimes I don't even need to use R. So we take Smiting Smash, which effectively we're taking and using just because it with the card that's on it, it increases the damage from Blessed Earth. We take Spirit Shield. Now, Spirit Shield is a defensive skill that reduces your spell damage by 10% for the same duration. However, if you get a card for it, Spirit Shield reflects 18% of the damage taken as spell damage. So it kind of makes up that up what you lose on the front end of the card. The skill, the front end of the skill, the card kind of makes it up on the back end. Smiting Smash, you can see here that passive we were talking about, applies Blessed Resonance, and it's for all targets hit by it, which increases the damage of Blessed Turf by 35%. Moving on to Blessed Earth. On Blessed Earth, we get rid of the heal. So this is not meant to be, the intention here is not to be passively healing very much throughout. I know we're in Spiritual, but you'll be surprised by the amount of damage you can put out with Spiritual. I'll show you that in a second. Provoke, this is obviously your AoE taunt. I upgraded the card just once or twice. So you can, effectively, you gain 6% shield or defense for 6 seconds, up to a maximum of 3 stacks. So you can get 18% defense for 6 seconds, which makes it a really logical opener, and it also builds Aether. Unbreakable, which is really good, and especially when you put this card on it. So Unbreakable doesn't heal with the card that you put on it. However, at the end of the Unbreakable, you deal 70% of the damage received as spell damage. So think about it, in an AoE pull, you're getting smacked on, and you're taking shitloads of damage. You have to soak that. So these skills are really meant to soak the front end of all of these. Really are meant to soak the front end of the damage that mobs are putting on me and reflect a bunch of it back, and then we'll move into our damage kind of ramp, which happens when we use our wizardry skills. On the bottom line, I have Guardian. Now this right here makes it so I can't heal. So I'm kind of working this out. I don't know if this is worth it or not. I think after this explodes, after Unbreakable ends and it procs, there's probably some healing that I'm picking up from Guardian. I think it's helping, but I'm not 100% sure yet. And then I take a 10% health increase. To make this build work, you're going to need health. You are sitting there and getting hit by 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mobs at a time. So you have to be able to survive that. In the wizardry tree, we're just going down the fire line. First 2 skills are just really single target skills that we're not using very much in this build. Because we're casting almost all AoE spells. We're taking Combust, which drops an burning ember and explodes after 3 seconds, dealing 84% spell damage. We're dropping, obviously, Flame Tornado, which adds Scorch stacks and increases, you're ramping more spell damage there. And then we're doing Meteor Strike with the AoE kind of shit on the ground after it falls. So remember, we're reflecting everything. We're trying to reflect everything we can as spell damage, because we're building into int and vitality when we go into stats. Cards I take on the bottom here are Havoc. Crit strikes have 15% to increase our spell damage. Everything we're doing is spell damage related. So if I get a crit, it ramps. If I get a crit in this build, I'm in AOE, so I'm critting a bunch of mobs. So I have the potential to increase spell damage up to 66 if it procs all 3 times, which is huge. And then obviously Fire Shield, which is a reflect by way of spell damage. We're using Cyclone here, and we have Cyclone on the one that casts on your body, and so that everybody is within 1 square of you takes damage from it. We take Barrier, and it increases Barrier by 100%, which is nice. Aura, we take this mostly for the reflect. So we cast this at the very beginning of our rotation. You'll see it in a second. And we're reflecting 60% of the basic attack damage to the attackers. When you have a shitload of mobs hitting you, it's really helpful. This is Windstrike Spear. We took the AOE version of it. I don't use it very often. It was originally the front of the rotation, but I took it out. But it's just to get to the last line. And then Typhoon, which is scalable. This card, if I could get this card at a high skill or a high level, it would be incredibly OP. But it deals 28% of spell damage every 1 second to all targets affected by it. So basically sucking every target in, and it's also just it's pulsing a ton of damage. If you have a high Typhoon card, I highly recommend you try and make it to Typhoon because it does loads of damage. It feels maybe like it's doing too much. So that's our skill tree. We are building into Vit. You can see we're deep into Vit for life. Remember I said you got to stay alive to make this rotation work. And then Int. Now my gear might be better than yours, so it might be harder to pull this off, but I'm in Leather Heroic 2-4 with spell power on every line. And then I have a Scepter that has just some, Int and Vitality, but kind of a shit green line. Then I have a Buckler that has Dex and then a pretty shit green line that I'm working on trying to get to Heroic. But you'll see when we farm here, if we farm for like 6 hours or 4 or 5 hours, we get like 400 or 500 carved infusions. And so it's pretty easy to get a shitload of infusions in the spot that I'm going to show you. So that's the build in a nutshell. So let me show you the build, killing some mobs, these turtles, and then I'm going to show you. You don't want to target any of these. You're going to want all your AoEs to cast on yourself, so don't target. And you're going to back yourself right into a corner. With all these mobs, so I got a bunch there. Back right into this corner, and I'm gonna defensive. So I'm barriering Aura. I'm using my Scepter shield. I'm taunting them all, which gives me a huge shield. 2, 3. You'll see. I'm just following my skill tree. I'm gonna Typhoon. You can see my damage really start to ramp here. And then everything will die. Now he's getting hit by a shitload of AoE still. That's pulsing on the ground on top of him. They all die. So that's the build in a nutshell. Really, the downsides of this build is that you have a pretty significant amount of time between pulls. It's like a minute. You have to wait for all this to come off cooldown. And you really need all of these things to make this build work successfully. So you'd be pulling every minute or so. But the XP is pretty insane. Like, and I can go to some higher level turtles or higher level mobs, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just showing it off with these because there's a bunch of them here and it's easy to pull. But you can see my Vit stacks on my gear and adding points. I'm at like 5,000 HP. Mana you don't have to really worry about. You don't really need to put anything into Wisdom. You're not healing through this. You don't really care about healing. And you're not using a ton of mana, which you'll see. And I'm going to do another pull here as soon as this pack respawns, and that'll be enough for this video. If you're dealing with, you're having trouble killing them all through the rotation, what I recommend is after you dropped your Meteor is to be spamming your Cyclone on yourself. You're going to be bouncing out a ton of damage to every mob that's parallel or within one tile of you. So you'll be dumping out a ton of damage through that skill. Now, this thing doesn't do a lot of damage, especially with the card. The card that's on it reduces the amount of damage that it does, but it does enough to get through the rotation if your gear's not as good as mine and you're struggling to kill these things. So let's show it off one more time. So we just do a lap of all these turtles. We round up every one of them. And if you look on my channel, I have where I was theory crafting this build and trying to figure it out. We have much larger pull than this, and I could pull. So again, I haven't targeted anything. I'm provoking, which is giving me a huge shield. Going through the rotation. Now I'm going to Typhoon. Now my damage is really going to ramp here. You can see I've taken almost no damage so far. I'm really going to take a lot of damage on the back end of this rotation, but everything should die here to this meteor. So that's the build in a nutshell. Again, the build is Blackguard, really built around full AOEs, built to keep you alive and not have to move, not have to you know, freeze packs and then create distance. You are going to take a lot of damage, so you have to have a lot of vitality. So try it out. Comment in the video, tell me what you think, and we'll be back. I'm sure next time we come back, I'll have some other build that I've been working on, because I am in this game obsessed with their crafting builds and new builds. So that's Blackguard, and thanks for watching.